A bunch of trailers dropped, the Batman is confirmed, and Godzilla stomped the box office. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
It's a me,
Dario!
Woohoo! Let's go!
So I went to a special press screening of X-Men Dark Phoenix yesterday, and I can't talk too much about it because it has, what's it called? A press embargo. That's the word. It's got an embargo, so you can't talk about it until tonight at 10 p.m., and I think that's really weird. I mean, I'll talk to you about it tomorrow. I'll tell you what I thought about the movie. But I thought it was really... I don't understand embargoes, at least not press embargoes, because they don't really make any sense. It's like, hey, I'm going to show you something, and your job as a professional person is to talk about things. So I'm going to show you something, and you can't talk about it until tomorrow. Well, why don't you just show me the thing tomorrow? I don't get it. I don't see what the point is. I don't see the big deal. What's the difference between me making a review on Tuesday and making it on Wednesday? I just don't get it. I'm sure there's a purpose for it, and I'm sure that somebody way smarter than me thought of a good reason why. Maybe they're planning on something. Maybe they're planning on doing a release at the same time. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. The point is, I don't get it, and it's really annoying for somebody like me who wants to talk about it while the memory's still fresh, because tomorrow, the memory's not going to be fresh, and you could be like, oh, well, maybe you could take some notes. They don't allow you to keep your phone on while you're watching a press screening for a movie, so you can't take notes. So you have to take them, afterwards? But by then, that's still not, I don't know. I don't like it. Point is, I don't like it. And, but I understand it. It has to be done. So the ones that suffer are you guys, because I already saw the movie. So you're the ones who will have to wait till tomorrow for me to talk about it. But anyway, a bunch of stuff happened over the weekend, and before I get into it, let me just give you a quick reminder that Super Dario World is now officially a part of the show's podcast network, which means that you can find it in the iHeartRadio app. Just type in "The Show Presents Super Dario World." It'll show up right there. You can also find it on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Just type in Super Dario World Podcast. It'll appear right there. There's still no changes on that. I will update you as soon as I hear something. And if you want to contact me with any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram. You can always reach out there. I had a few people reach out with a few questions about my Game of Thrones setup. Like, dude, why didn't you finish up with Theon? Why didn't you tell us what happens with Davos? Wait, the answer was pretty simple. I kind of forgot. I forgot to mention them, but something does happen, and I will, you know what? Before next Monday, when I continue with my Game of Thrones rewrite, I will reiterate what happened to them. Don't worry, I'll get into it. And you know what? Thank you very much for letting me know that I skipped that. I appreciate you reaching out and letting me know that I kind of forgot to specify exactly what they were going to be doing. But okay, all right, let's get into it. So let's get things started. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, opened up at the #1 spot in the domestic box office, and I think the international one too, making, what was it? Well, it was actually like a pretty weak debut. It opened up with $49 million in the US, but still was enough to keep it at #1. The shocking thing here is that it beat out Aladdin, which only made $42 million, which, I mean, I'm saying only. $42 million is pretty good. But the weird thing is that I expected Aladdin to be doing way better at this point. I thought it was going to dominate the box office for a little bit, especially because from every single person I've heard, they've liked the movie. They said it's a pretty good movie, but apparently not enough. I've heard a couple of critiques from it, but overall people are saying it's really good. Really good. That they do put their own spin on things. It's not a complete just remaking of the same movie. They actually put their own spin on stuff. They actually made things different. So, I don't know. But Godzilla's at #1, which makes sense. Internationally, it makes sense because Godzilla's huge in Japan and Asia. Asians love Godzilla, which is weird because Godzilla is always destroying Japan and Asia. But it's a great franchise over there. People love their kaijus, and I'm actually excited to see it. I've heard one critique about it, but it's from a source that I don't consider that reliable, so I'll wait and see. I'm actually pretty stoked to watch it because I saw the Netflix one, the Netflix Godzilla series. It was a different take on it, so I don't know. Let's see what they do. I'm curious to see what they can pull off. Anyway, I reported on this last week, but it has been confirmed that Robert Pattinson, that is Edward from the Twilight franchise, will be the next Batman in the new Matt Reeves trilogy, which Matt Reeves, for those of you who don't know, he's the director of The War of the Planet of the Apes. I think it's The Rise of the Planet of the Apes too. So he's actually a pretty good director. I enjoyed those movies. And he wants to make a new trilogy where he's going to focus more on Batman as the world's greatest detective, which I don't think is something that they've done in the movies so far. So it could be interesting to see. So far, I've given you my thoughts on Robert Pattinson. I thought that he would have made a better Riddler, but he needs to gain at least 20 to 30 pounds of muscle for the role. And actually, a P1 reached out to me and he said, dude, what do you think of Robert Pattinson actually being cast to play Terry McGinnis? Now, for those of you who don't know, Terry McGinnis, if you ever saw the TV show Batman Beyond, that's a TV show. It's an animated TV show where it's a futuristic version of Batman where Bruce Wayne is now old and a new kid takes over the cape and he wears a futuristic suit, and it's really cool. It's a really cool suit. And anyway, that Batman he's the new Batman, and he's Terry McGinnis. Well, his name is Terry McGinnis. That's the character. And so I thought, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense. But if Matt Reeves says that his trilogy is going to focus more on the world's greatest detective part, Terry McGinnis was not known as the world's greatest detective. That was all Bruce Wayne. So I don't think they're going to go in that direction. Right now, I'm okay with the casting, but I want to see. There's a movie that actually Matt Reeves tweeted out when he announced that it was going to be Robert Pattinson, and it's the movie's called Good Time, where they show kind of Robert Pattinson in a crime drama. So I'm curious to see that performance. From the trailer, it looks really good. So I want to see his performance there before I actually settle on how I feel about it. Because I mentioned this before. The dude's a good actor. He just kind of seems kind of a wimp. So you need to be a very particular type of broody for Bruce Wayne, for Batman. He seems kind of like a bitchy broody. I think that's fair. He's kind of like, yeah, because in Twilight he also played the broody character, but he was kind of a little bitch, and it was really annoying. So we'll see. So far, I've heard nothing but good things outside of Twilight, but I haven't heard great things. So we'll see. Anyway, it's been confirmed, and the movie will now finally get on the way, because for a really long time it's just been in production hell. As soon as Ben Affleck left, as soon as Ben Affleck stepped out as director, that whole thing went to hell. Then Matt Reeves came in and he wanted to write the whole thing from scratch. He and Ben Affleck butted heads, I assume, because there's no other reason why Ben Affleck would have been like, you know what, I don't like money anymore. So I'm assuming that now that he had to change the story a little, because he was writing a story originally for an older Batman and now it's a younger one. So we'll see. It's going to take a while for the script to be finished and for them to start production, but it's finally going to get underway, and it'll be interesting to see if they're going to integrate Batman into the DC movie universe, because right now I don't know how he fits in, because we saw an older Batman there, and now you're going to give us a new one, a younger one? So things could get messy there. Let's see how they handle it. So far, the last two movies were pretty fun. That's Shazam and Aquaman, so we'll see how things move forward with the next Wonder Woman movie, which will come out later this year, and we'll see how things go with the Batman. Let's see how they find a way to mix them in, because it's going to be a trilogy. I don't think they've confirmed trilogies for any of the other ones, so we'll see. Hoping for the best. Moving on, the trailer for Netflix's The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance was finally dropped, and I was stunned. This thing looks really good in a really weird, creepy way. For those of you who don't know The Dark Crystal, Jim Henson, who is the puppeteer behind the Muppets, you know him probably from the Muppets, from Sesame. He's a puppeteer. He does work with puppets. Jim Henson, puppets. Okay. So back in the 80s, he created a movie called The Dark Crystal, and this is the story straight out of IMDb. On another planet in the distant past, a Gelfling embarks on a quest to find the missing shard of a magical crystal, and so restore order to his world. So that's the original one. If it was directed and created by Jim Henson, then you can assume that it had puppets, and they're really creepy puppets. I'm not a big fan of them. I'm not a big fan of puppets, but it was a decent movie. Creepy, really creepy. Anyway, so a teaser drop for the next Dark Crystal. It is going to be a Netflix series, and it's supposed to be a prequel to that movie. And again, it's also going to have puppets, but it's an interesting mix of puppets and CGI. So they got the most advanced CGI technology, mixed with puppets. It looks weird in a great way, because it's it adds a very interesting effect. I highly recommend you watch the trailer. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it correctly. I'm not, you know what? I know I'm not explaining it correctly because I still can't vocalize exactly how I feel about it. Because a part of me is like, oh, that looks kind of creepy. But a part of me is like, oh, that looks great for a puppet. And a part of me is like, oh, it okay, but what am I going for? Do you want me to know it's a puppet, or do you want me to believe that it's real? I think it's somewhere in between, and if that's what they were going for, then they nailed it. Anyway, the story for the next one is for the Age of Resistance, this show. It's going to tell us a whole new epic story, and it's set many years before the original movie. Here's the synopsis. The world of Thra is dying. The crystal of truth is at the heart of Thra, a source of untold power. But it is damaged, corrupted by the evil Skeksis, and a sickness spreads across the land. When three Gelfling uncovered the horrific truth behind the power of the Skeksis, an adventure unfolds as the fires of rebellion are lit, and the epic battle for the planet begins. Now, how they're going to manage a battle between puppets, I'm really excited to see, because in the trailer you see a lot of action, but you don't really see any fights. So I'm curious to see how they're going to handle it in a way that doesn't look too silly. But, like I said, watch the trailer. I highly recommend it. It looks really interesting, and it'll help you understand what I mean by the look they're going for. But it looks interesting. The story sounds good, and it looks pretty creepy. I'm hoping I won't get creeped out and scared by it like I did when I was younger. I really regret watching that movie when I was a kid. It really scared me. I don't know why. I guess puppets are creepy. But anyway, moving on, there was another big trailer that was dropped over the weekend. It was the Ford versus Ferrari trailer, and that movie looks so good. So good. The movie stars Matt Damon and Christian Bale, and here's the synopsis. American car designer Carroll Shelby and driver Ken Miles battle corporate interference, the loss of physics, and their own personal demons to build a revolutionary race car for Ford and challenge Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966. So, Carroll Shelby is being played by Matt Damon. The driver Ken Miles is being played by Christian Bale, and the movie's being directed by James Mangold, who you may remember from Logan, Walk the Line, Girl Interrupted, 3:10 to Yuma. So the guy's made some legit films, and so far every single thing that I've seen from this movie, it looks like it's going to be a knockout, because it's not just a racing movie. It's actually more of a corporate interference movie. It looks super interesting, and the performances look fantastic. Matt Damon and Christian Bale teaming up is phenomenal. I still think that the best team-up of the year is going to be Brad Pitt with Leonardo DiCaprio, but this one might actually be a fair contender, a fair number 2 for the best movie of the year. I'm not kidding. I mean, drama, non-geek movies, this might be like number 2. It might even fight for number 1. Who knows? But anyway, it'll hit theaters in November 15. You can check out the trailer on YouTube. Just type in Ford v Ferrari trailer, and it should pop up right there. But anyway, let's move on. The Russo brothers, who you may know from a little movie called Avengers Endgame or from Avengers Infinity War, are making news because they're starting a new show on Netflix, but it's going to be very different than what they've done before. They got the rights for Magic the Gathering, and they're planning on making an animated series out of it. So Netflix is actually starting to get into the anime game a lot, and they're not doing terrible. They're actually doing some pretty good stuff. The Castlevania show was pretty decent, and I've seen a couple of other things there that are pretty good. There's an animated show by the guy who did Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Dragon Prince. It's called The Dragon Prince. It's actually okay. I'm not a big fan of that style of animation, but the story's pretty good. Delete 1 or 2 things that I thought were kind of ridiculous, but overall the story's pretty good. It still has a lot of heart, but it is competing against The Last Airbender, so that's not really a fair comparison because they're one. Okay, I'm not going to get into it. I can get into it some other time. But okay, this is what the Russo brothers are saying about Magic the Gathering. Start quote, "We have been huge fans and players of Magic the Gathering for as long as it has been around, so being able to bring these stories to life through animation is a true passion project for us." End quote. Now, they are not set to direct this film. They're going to be executive producers and writers, and the other writers are going to be Henry Gilroy, who wrote for Star Wars Rebels, which is actually a fun watch, and Jose Molina, who wrote Agent Carter, which, again, it was a fun show. I don't know why it got canceled, which sucks. I was enjoying it. Anyway, the story is set to focus on an all-new storyline that centers around the heroes and villains within the magic-wielding clan of the Planeswalkers. Now, if that means anything to you, great. I have never played Magic the Gathering. I have no idea how it works. I'm assuming, but I respect it for the franchise that it is. I've just never played it. It's never been in my wheelhouse. But I'm hoping that once the show comes out, I will get to learn a little bit more because it actually sounds pretty interesting, and I'm okay with the Russos' work. I've enjoyed their work so far, so it's enough to get me interested. Anyway, moving on. Microsoft has been working really hard on creating a live-action TV show for Halo. They want to create a live-action Halo TV show. They wanted to create a movie, but things did not work out. Peter Jackson was involved for a bit, then he wasn't. It was really weird. It's been a mess. It's been a mess of a franchise to make a live-action film for or TV show, but it looks like they're finally getting all their ducks in a row, and they've already cast their main character, Master Chief. So he will be played by Pablo Schreiber, who you may remember from Orange is the New Black. He played Pornstache, which I don't see it, but I guess it's not really that big of a deal because you're not supposed to see Master Chief's face anyway. Or at least I don't think he's ever shown it in the game. They've only shown his eyes being really pissed off, but I don't think they've ever actually shown him. So I'm concerned about a lot of things about this show, particularly that they cast a Master Chief, which means that they're planning on showing his fucking face, which I'm not crazy about. I'm not crazy about that idea. Now, for those of you who don't know, Halo is a video game franchise. You could say it's the flagship franchise for the Xbox and Xbox One and Xbox 360. It's been their flagship title. And so I would say it because the only reason why I bought the original Xbox was because of Halo. I wanted to play Halo Combat Evolved. Anyway, the story is basically that humanity has spread throughout the universe, or it's spreading, and we came into contact with a race of aliens that basically thinks that humanity should die. And as we're in war with these aliens, we find this, imagine a big ring in space, a gigantic ring that actually has life in it. So once you land on that ring, you realize it's a giant space station, but there's living beings in there. There's plants and stuff. And it turns out that thing is actually a gigantic weapon that can wipe out all the life of the universe. Well, the galaxy. The life of that sector of the galaxy. So other things happen, but I think that's fair. That's a fair enough description for that. So they've been trying to make this into a movie, into a TV show for a very long time. They have not been successful. Oh, by the way, there's also zombies in it. So space zombies. It's a really, really great video game franchise. I highly recommend it. It has some of my favorite games in it. So I highly recommend it. But the show, the news came down earlier this week that they want to make this show like Game of Thrones, but without the incest. I don't see it. And I'm going to read you a couple of quotes, and then I'll explain why I don't get what they're trying to do. So here's the first quote. It's hard to find an analog. We talk about Game of Thrones a lot in terms of scope and scale and complexity of relationships. A lot of the background of Halo is sort of a political drama. It's something that is touched on really lightly in the games, and you see more of it in some of the mediums. Some of that Game of Thrones style complexity is interesting. End quote. And I actually put both of those quotes together because they fit in nicely, and I don't care. Anyway, so what they said there is true. The Halo universe is huge. There's video games, there's books, there's TV shows, but animated ones, there's short movies. There's also, and this I highly recommend this. There's a podcast out there that was created specifically for the launch of a new Halo game. So originally, the original creators, the original developers of Halo were the Studio Bungie. That's who created it. But the Studio Bungie left after, I think they had 6-7 titles under their belt, and they hired new developers called 343 Industries. Anyway, before 343 Industries released the second title for their Halo franchise, which was called Halo Guardians, it was Halo 5, they created a podcast to kind of create some build-up for the launch, and the podcast was called Hunt the Truth, and it was phenomenal. It's a phenomenal podcast. It's got 2 seasons only. I think if you combine it all together, it's not more than 3 hours. And the story starts, it's kind of the podcast of a reporter who accidentally stumbles into a huge secret. So he's trying to do a quick bio story on Master Chief, and he starts uncovering a whole bunch of creepy government stuff that surrounds him that doesn't make any sense. So he starts going deeper and deeper and deeper, and in more and more trouble. So I highly recommend that. It's voiced by Keegan-Michael Key and Covey Schmothers. Those are the 2 main characters there. Keegan-Michael Key, you might know him from Key and Peele. Kobe Smothers, you might know her from, she played Robin in How I Met Your Mother. She also makes appearances in the Avengers, well, the MCU. Anyway, so they have a rich universe to work on, but I don't think that they get that the most interesting part of Halo is the fighting. You know, we don't care about the political intrigue in Halo. That's why you even mentioned it. They lightly touch on it because we lightly don't care. All right? Focus on making an epic sci-fi action movie. That'd be great. That'd be enough. An epic sci-fi TV show would be fantastic. That's all we need. You don't need to get into all the... I don't want to see Master Chief dealing with a whole bunch of politicians. That's stupid. I want to see him kicking Covenant ass. I want to see him running from the Flood. I want to see the events of Reach. There's so much for you to work on. Don't worry on all the other stupid things. Nobody gives a shit about the politicians. I mean, it'll have to be a part of the story because you have to create context and you have to create a world that feels like it's living and it's breathing. But overall, we don't want to see Master Chief dealing with that stuff. We want to see him kicking ass. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I don't know. Tell him. Let me know. Hit me up if you think that I'm wrong about this at Dario the Show. Anyway, the last piece of news that I'm going to get to today is that Isaac Hempstead Wright, whom I actually met at Comic-Con, by the way. Fun fact. I'll show a picture some other time. Anyway, you might know him as Bran from Game of Thrones. So people have been really upset with the way the show ended. Me included. I've been kind of upset. And by the way, spoiler alert, so people have been complaining left and right that it doesn't make any sense that Bran was the king at the end. It doesn't make any sense, blah, 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 blah. I've been among those people. Anyway, he did an interview recently in which he said this, start quote, David and Dan told me that there were two things author George R. R. Martin had planned for Bran. And that was the Hodor revelation and that he would be king. So that's pretty special to be directly involved in something that is part of George's vision. It was a really nice way to wrap it up. End quote. So a lot of people have been reaching out to me upset. They're like, oh, dude, this means that the books, the ending, it's going to suck. I mean, George is probably going to make it in a way that it makes sense, but that's really upsetting, blah, blah, blah. And I get that. I can see why they think that. But I'm going to give you a little ray of sunshine. Technically, Bran already is a king because Robb is dead, so the next male heir is Bran. So technically, Bran is already a king. So knowing George has this thing where he kind of just likes to give you a little bit of information that could mean so many things. So I'm not too worried about this. It might have been George R. R. Martin just saying that, oh yeah, Bran will be king because at that point, he might just be king of the North. It didn't specify king of what. He might be the king of the land of always winter. He might be the king of the children of the forest. So if that's all that George said, that Bran would be king, then, dudes, don't worry about it. Relax. It could be one way, it could be the other. Just, I think you're overreacting over nothing. Okay? Also, he might be lying. Also, Dave and Dan might be lying. You never know. You have no idea the things that directors tell actors just to keep them motivated or to inspire them or whatever. It's really weird. It works. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But they'll tell them whatever they need to tell them in order to get the reaction they want on film. So don't worry about that one. I think that is a non-issue. And until we get the last fucking books, I would not sweat it. Also, it sounds like George was kind of pissed off with the way they handle things. And if everybody already knows how it's going to end, he's probably going to do some things to change it one way or another so that it's different. Because here's the beauty of this guy's writing and the reason why the books are probably so popular. A lot of things fit in with a lot of characters. So there's a lot of prophecies going on and a lot of characters fit that prophecy. And so it's fun for the audience or the people who read the books to be like, oh, could it be this one? No, because of this. And you fight over and there's so many things in there. So he gives himself a lot of room to play around with. I'm guessing it's gotta suck as a writer because you have to keep so many possibilities open and then pick one and then realize the consequence of that one and maybe come back. I don't know. It's gotta suck. You kind of have to make a decision, but I'm assuming that he could just easily switch with something else. I don't know. We'll see. Point is, right now, to the people who reached out upset, I understand your pain. I understand why it was upsetting. I understand why on the surface it really pisses you off, but it might be a whole lot of nothing. So just keep your fingers crossed and hope that all this debacle makes George change his mind on a few things. But okay, that's it. That's all I got for today. Tomorrow, like I said, I saw X-Men Dark Phoenix yesterday, and there's a press embargo until tonight at 10 p.m. So tomorrow I will be breaking down the movie spoiler-free. I try to do things spoiler-free, so it's going to be a spoiler-free review of X-Men Dark Phoenix, and I'll probably talk about something else. I don't know. I'll think about it. Anyway, any comments, questions, or suggestions you have for me, you can always reach out at Dario the Show on Instagram. You can always find me there. And as always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.